Okay, so we have people coming in to this webinar, so it's a good time to start. Just wanted to say thanks for joining us to learn and engage in our deep dive discussion. So last time we talked about a big mind shift in treating AI agents like human teammates and not like software, and all the frictions that kind of come with that. And today we're going to address sort of the organizational knowledge challenges that many companies run into when they're trying to implement and deploy their AI. So today's discussion is actually part of a series of deep dives that will, go through teaching you all the ways on how to properly approach implementing and deploying AI at enterprise scale and have it actually work in the real world. So there's this issue that has occurred almost since, the beginning of time that's still prevalent today. And it's the old garbage in, garbage out problem. Your AI is only ever going to be as good as your data allows it to be, right? And a wrong or problematic agent response might not be the failure of the models per se or the AI itself when it's working with incorrect or bad information. So Raja, you have obviously a lot of experience working in this field with enterprises and in deploying AI. I mean, what have you seen from your experience to be, the most prominent problems underlying organizational knowledge?
Thank you, Rebecca, and hi, everyone. So I think while deploying Ejento, which is our enterprise agentic AI platform, one of the most common pain points, and I have to admit, one of the common pain points within our own organization is not having access to the cutting edge platforms. We have some of the most amazing tools, agentic AI tools that are available. The challenge is that a lot of organizations do not have, let's call it their operating model. It is not conducive to AI. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, let's say, maybe I will give you a real example from our end. This is how our marketing team starts with a blog post. They ideate, they go and write a blog post. They iterate over. This is how it is reviewed. You do some SEO optimization, and then you flush it out, right? Or uh, any other process, right? So how do you respond to a customer? How do you respond to this type of query? And how do you respond to that type of query? So when you go and um, involve humans in this process, let's take AI out of it. There's no automation. There's only humans involved. Whenever there is an exception that comes in, um, so what do I do here exactly? I will, on my Slack, on my Teams, I just go and send a message and ask, hey, Rebecca, can you tell me how I do this? Yeah, I mean, this is how we do it. And then I go and complete my task and life is good. Until the next time, it is not Raja, Bob or John or Jen. Someone else is doing the same thing all over. And exactly at that point, hey, Rebecca, can you tell me what do I do here? Yeah, and Rebecca is technically the bottleneck, or not Rebecca technically is the bottleneck, but Rebecca is what Rebecca knows, the context that Rebecca has about the entire organization and the way certain things are done, that is the bottleneck. So when we bring in our customers to agentic AI, when we start implementing agentic AI within an organization, the first and foremost thing that we do within the organizations is um, setting the right context. Connect your agents to the right sources of data. Connect your agents to the right sources of data, but also go back and review all your operating procedures, your processes, your playbooks, all of them have to be documented because AI is, in many ways, AI is very smart. LLMs are quite smart. They can reason, but in many ways, they could be dumb. hey, if I have no idea how things are done at Data Science Dojo, how am I going to actually know, or how things are done at company X or company Y, or how am I going to act here? So those kind of scenarios, for those, context is absolutely, absolutely critical. Because as Rebecca, you started with this, I know it is in analytics and BI, it's a cliched phrase, garbage in, garbage out. But well, that's the reality. If you have wrongly documented things, if you have stale documentation, if you have absent or missing documentation, you are or missing context, as we call it, there is going to be a problem. Your AI is not going to magically solve your context problems.
For sure. And I think like there's this real example of a HR benefits agent that kind of confidently answered employees' question with last year's benefits instead of using the current year's benefits. And they're quite different in the benefit offerings between the years. Walk us through what exactly happened there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a story from a real customer, we deployed Ejento for a customer. Once we deployed Ejento to a customer, so Ejento allows you to build really any kind of agent, really anything that you can imagine. You can have a blog writer, you can have a benefits advisor, a customer support assistant, a financial analyst. So think about our idea or the notion of agents as teammates. You create these teammates and summon them as needed. Well, one customer, their HR department created this HR benefits assistant. They were receiving quite a lot of queries, especially around the benefits enrollment period. They were getting a lot of queries from customers, or rather employees, about benefits. So they said, yeah, I mean, this benefits enrollment period, let's get ready, and we are going to deploy this AI assistant. So very well. It's one of the easier scenarios, by the way. Anytime you have this knowledge base that is fairly static, it is not personalized. Now, you have this generic benefits information, created an agent, hooked it up to all the HR benefits data, and still not rolled out to customers. But during testing, they came back, hey, I mean, this is giving us information. The agent or the assistant is giving us information from the older benefits, the expired benefits, and these are from previous year. And why, right? So, and knowing, having that context, right, I said, I mean, you must have hooked it up to some stale data. And they said, no, I mean, we are very confident that that is not the case. Well, got on a call, started looking at it. Fortunately, we have built in this explainability layer within Ejento. So you click on this, okay, how are you getting your arriving at this conclusion that these are the benefits. Where did you find this data? And very well, we found out that it was leading to a document that was from last year. And clicked on it. The other person was on the call, of course. So hey, where is this? What is this doc? Oh, this is the last year's document. Where did this come from? It turned out there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Someone actually uploaded the guide. Hey, some additional benefit, right? So let's actually upload it. And long story short, removed it from that connected source of data or connected source of context. As soon as we removed it, well, the agent started behaving. So it did not make any changes, no changes to the prompt or the skills or the tools that were connected. Still the same SharePoint that was connected. It was just one wrong source of data that was removed, and the agent started to behave differently.
Right. I wonder if there's like, if you know about any like kind of mechanisms or checks that companies, might use to flag or be alerted to outdated data that might have, crept through their knowledge base or organizational knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. That's a difficult problem. And this is not an agentic AI problem, by the way. This problem has existed, Rebecca. We have been in industry for a while now, right? This problem has existed for a long time. This problem has existed even with um, when you're building machine learning models, right? So, what if someone brings in, back in the day, when I was working at Microsoft, I was used to work at Bing. Now you're using your search logs to build models, relevance models, right? So now for the relevance models that you're building, uh, how do you filter out traffic? Because a lot of traffic that comes to online services like a search engine, Amazon, and other shopping website, a lot of this traffic is automated traffic. So do you include automated traffic in when you're building these machine learning models, or you don't, right? Data quality issue, right? So there are data quality can be managed in many different ways, right? So first of all, you can have some sort of access control, who is some kind of relationship or role-based access control, um, who should be updating the data sources and should not be updating data sources. Then some kind of evaluation that is hooked up. The same queries. The most fascinating thing that I see about agentic AI is, think about this. An assistant that is, I asked it a question, what is the refund policy of the company? Or what is the price of this product, right? So any question, right? I'm getting, as I speak, I'm getting correct answers to all the questions that the customers care about. But behind the scenes, someone plugged in, hooked up some data source without knowing explicitly. You're connected to SharePoint. Many people have access to the same SharePoint or Dropbox, any Google Drive. Now, it's a shared resource. Someone put in an archived data source, right? So they created an archive folder and then they dumped all the stale data or low quality or poor quality data. Now, the person using it, who's deployed the agent, or some person who's using the agent or exposing it to the customer, they have no idea that the data layer has changed. No one knows. So an agent that was correct or accurate just a minute ago is now completely off. So that means there has to be some kind of relationship-based access control in an agentic AI platform. That is going to be a must. Your data governance has to be there. Your AI governance in general has to be there. And then some kind of evaluations have to be there. For different customers, for different type of assistants, we have done Ejento offers a role or relationship-based access controls. They are built in. Those who are only those who are authorized to change any context or data sources, only they will be able to make any changes. In addition to that, one thing that, or one tool that came in very handy was the evaluation. So you have these baseline queries. This is the question. This is the expected answer. Another question, another expected answer. How do I back up my database? Or how do I, what are the insurance benefits for MRI for year 2020 or something like that, right? So you have some baseline questions and some baseline answers that are already there. And depending upon how a variety of factors, how difficult or what kind of exposure, are you legally exposed or PII exposure, any kind of compliance requirements or how unstable you think everything is, you run these queries maybe every day, every 12 hours, every 6 hours, and they keep running in the background, and then you keep evaluating just in case something has changed. So there are mechanisms, let me summarize, right? So you can have mechanisms to control access to the data sources that no one who's not authorized is able to change any of the data sources, or you can have evals built on top of your existing agents. So in case any context changes and subsequently it impacts how the agents are behaving, you end up detecting it earlier. And this happens way more often than many of us would expect, actually. In real world,
Yeah.
this is a very, very common problem.
Yeah, such a prevalent issue, I imagine, for sure. And it kind of reminds me of another example, a real example of, an AI agent answering a question of who the CEO of a company is and
Yeah.
stating the previous CEO embarrassingly. If the company hadn't had not discovered the issue
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
say, an old blog post that didn't get refreshed in their index, how easy would it have been to blame, say, the model or the
Mm-hmm.
AI itself and possibly go down the wrong
Yeah.
diagnosis path?
Yeah, I mean, these are issues. Can we absolutely, absolutely avoid them all the time? I do not know. I don't think so, really. So but let me first explain the incident, the anecdote that you're referring to. So another customer, we deployed an assistant, a technology company. We built their tech support platform. It was a customer support platform. The way it was set up is that you have this AI assistant, this agentic or this intelligent support platform. Hey, how do I back up my database? Or I have this problem, this query would not run. What do I do? Right? So those kind of technical support things. And what the platform would do is it would respond. And if the customer doesn't, if the customer still thinks that they are not happy with the response, then they would say, hey, I'm still not satisfied. And it would go and create and open a ticket in Zendesk, right? So, and we integrated Ejento with their Zendesk. Now, and what were they doing? Step 3, Step 4 queries, they are all offloaded to an Ejento-based customer support assistant. And anytime the user says that I'm not satisfied, we still would summarize the thread. This was the question, this was the answer, what was the follow-up, and etc. So it summarizes the entire thread, takes the summary, and opens a ticket and assigns it to a human, whatever their assignment policies are. All sorts of articles were there in that support platform. Blogs from their website, the technical articles, in some cases, other things, really. So a lot of things, a lot of material from all over. So with that, now, your blogs are blogs, right? So you have some old blogs, some new blogs. So the existing CEO of the company came in and very simply asked the question, and still not rolled out, not in production yet. So we were doing some testing before we release it, and I get this frantic text message on my phone. Hey, on a Sunday, that hey, the CEO checked this, Bob, like not the real name. Bob asked this question: who's the CEO of the company? It says John is the CEO, and but John was the previous CEO. And once again, the same question, right? So, well, John must be mentioned somewhere. I mean, it turns out that in the articles that were given to the agent as context. None of the articles had Bob as the CEO. All of them, like the previous article, hey, CEO John of company so and so was presenting, and there's this news release and press release, and it was citing that article, right? So, well, he's the CEO. I mean, you told the agent that he's the CEO, and you have to actually go and override and add that bit of context that CEO was from this date to that date, and the CEO from this date to this date, right? So those kind of things are common. They are pertinent,
Right.
and you can avoid, you can minimize them, you can mitigate them, you can learn how it can, how and where to actually control and mitigate these. Can you completely eliminate? No, you cannot completely eliminate these issues.
No, for sure. And I wanted to bring up, I want to bring up this concept of, content risk versus execution risk, where, your content or information itself is wrong, but then having an AI agent actually take an action based on wrong information can make it a more, serious execution style risk. Maybe talk more about these kind of concepts. And I'm guessing, it goes back to being dependent on the source or content in the end of the day. Execution risk only happens if the source is incorrect, right?
Yes, yeah. So let me differentiate a bit on generally speaking, when we say assistants usually we are referring to when there is, assistants are more interactive, right? I tell them and they come back, hey, here is what you're looking for. And then now go do this. Can you also do this? Why don't you revise this draft that you created? So assistants have less autonomy, and usually assistants would use tools that are more context fetching tools. But when you have an agent, so by definition, agent has somewhat more autonomy, and they can take actions on my behalf. For instance, right? So let me explain this. So if I go and ask Microsoft Copilot or any of similar tools, ask them, summarize all the emails that I received from Rebecca, and it just summarizes those emails to me. But then all it did was it read the emails, summarized, and presented the summary for me. Right? But now when I say, now go and send an email to Rebecca based on the most recent email, that would be, if I delegate to it some autonomy, it is an agent. And an agentic system is an extension of this agent behavior. I know I don't like this framing. I do not like actually when industry keeps coming up with new terminology. I mean, glorifying the existing ideas. But hey, this is what it is. I'm explaining how the general notion is, right? To me, agentic AI is an agent at the end of the day. But general understanding is agentic AI is where you are also reasoning constantly. You are going back and forth. It's more human-like, right? It's closer to how humans act, right? You ask me a question, I respond to a question. You tell me, I contextually I say, hey, are there any questions? So without even you telling me, I go and very quickly go and in Zoom Q&A on the Zoom call that we are on right now, I go and try to check if someone has asked a question, right? So I'm more agentic in this context, right? So now, when you give this much autonomy to your agents, there's a problem. If I am using an assistant for writing a blog, well, when I receive the draft of a blog, I asked it to iterate and modify. Or if I'm doing a marketing post or any kind of writing or content work. So that's a content risk. even if it is automated and it posts on my website, it is directly connected, I don't want to review, and etc. So that's how it works. But what if this is my the agent has access to my CRM system. I need to issue a refund, or if there are if I change the record of a customer in my CRM system, the customer misunderstood, or the agent misunderstood the customer. The customer wants to, well, close the deal with $100,000, and my agent understood, hey, close the deal. Let's not move it to cold deals, and it's not going to work, right? And it just closes the deal in the CRM instead of closing the deal as in let's move on and move to the contract phase. So this is what we call the execution risk. So we know assistants, most of us, we interact with ChatGPT and Claude. We are interacting with most of the time, the kind of risk that we are taking, it is content risk. But as these agents, they become more and more prevalent, they become part of our lives, and we hook them up to our Gmail, or we hook them up to our bank accounts. Not yet, maybe a couple of years from now, we are dealing with an execution risk. And that's what execution risk refers to. I think there are a few questions as well.
And I just wanted to stop for audience questions, if that's okay. So I think a question that came through, which is an interesting one. If the and the agent consumes it correctly, will the output still be correct? Maybe it's not a guarantee, but will it be correct?
Yeah. So basically, if I rephrase the question, this is from Adnan on LinkedIn. Curious, if the data is right and the agent consumes it correctly, will the output be correct? We do not know. Adnan, chances are most modern models, they will consume it correctly, but just having data as a single. So I would not look at data as a single block, because my data may be coming from multiple sources. My data may be coming from my history of interaction with the same agent. My data may be coming from 5 different sources, my CRM system, maybe there is a web search, maybe there's my past proposals that I have submitted, maybe with my past emails that I've sent to the customer. So data can be disparate. So data is correct. Factually, data is correct. But the problem is, let's say I'm reading a customer's record from, so customer initially wanted to buy something for $10,000, but we offered them a bundle, and now they are up to $15,000. Now now both pieces of information are correct. Originally $10,000, now $15,000, but a good model will be able to actually connect the dots. It will reason, and it will be able to, this kind of multi-hop reasoning, it will be able to actually arrive at the right conclusion. So if your data is very, very straightforward, then even a simpler model will do its job. When you have these complicated, an example would be is you have these multiple Excel files with numbers. The numbers may be correct, but the model may misunderstand your intent and may average it, and you wanted it per quarter, it gives you per month, or biannually. So those kind of things, even if data is right, then your model will do the heavy lifting. So there is, yes, data is the prerequisite. Data has to be right. But after that, you would hope that if the data is right, then model would work well. Remember, these systems LLMs are non-deterministic. So there are no guarantees for that they will definitely work correctly. Okay. And are there any systems of defining levels of autonomy? Yes, there are. Adnan, your question. Yes, there are. Actually, if someone from the team, we can post. I This was shared last week as well, but uh, we published an HBR article that actually talks about this levels of autonomy, starting from more of an assistive setting all the way to with some guardrails, and then we call it graduated autonomy. So when you deploy an assistant within an organization to begin with, you start with a simpler, um, you start with a very controlled setup with a human in the loop all the time, and then you slowly relax the constraints depending upon the performance of your assistant or your agent eventually. Um, Very much like when you hire someone, you don't give them within your company, you do not give them access to all the information. Maybe initially onboarding, orientation documents, my team documents, and slowly as they gain trust, as they have proven that they are trustworthy, you start to give them access to more. And there are more questions actually. Sanjeev, we can have man in the loop or a woman in the loop or a human in the loop, right? So we can have a human in the loop for such deal close scenarios. Yes, I mean, human in the loop is, but there is this desire when we go on this path. I agree that certain cases must have a human in the loop, but the cases that don't need a human in the loop necessarily should not have a human in the loop, right? So, and it is only the business or subject matter experts, only they can actually they can decide whether a human in the loop is needed or not. But there is this desire when you go for automation, you want to automate everything. You want to automate as much as possible. And then there is a follow-up. It is a matter of identifying the use case priorities from automated to human interaction. With examples quoted in prompt, it should be able to take decisions based on orchestration. Right? That is correct, generally. And so, yeah, you have a question. What I've been doing to minimize execution risk is using a multi-tier approval system governed by multiple high-tier models, only if they all agree. That is only if, let me read completely, only if they all agree, then only the execution starts. Is this effective strategy? Only to the extent you're diversifying the bet, you're diversifying. And this is, once again, we have seen this in our traditional predictive modeling. I can have a single decision tree. I can have an ensemble of decision trees. I can do both, right? So it minimizes or it reduces the risk. But if all of them are getting the same context, then you may be actually somewhat diversifying the risk, but it really depends upon how different is the context, how different is the instruction that was given to these committee of agents. Also keep in mind that each agent will also consume tokens. This process can also be very expensive. Okay.
Kind of like if Raja 1 and Raja 2 and Raja 3 all unanimously agree that we should give this $1 million refund. It's like, well, they're all Rajas at the end of the day. They're not diversifying their contexts. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So then there is another comment from LinkedIn regarding LLM output. One thing concerning is folks using AI to summarize and read and respond to emails. relying on the agent to correctly summarize and understand context. Email is much more nuanced for context. I agree. So emails can be nuanced, but lately I've been actually mind blown when I have some of the recent models, the Sonnet and Opus, some of the recent ones, 4.5 onwards. Some of these models were actually able to catch nuances and some of the undertones within the email better than I could. And I have to admit, right? So just trying to understand, hey, what is going on? And then when you use some of these models, keep in mind, these models right now, as we speak, they are on this, feedback loop, right? So the entire humanity is using them. And the way we are using these models, it goes back to the reinforcement loop. The next model comes in, it is better than what they shipped. So I would like to think that eventually these models will be able to understand a lot of nuances of language, maybe most of English language, some other less languages that are less represented in these models, maybe not so much in those, but for English language, these models are becoming scary good at understanding those semantic nuances, and they are getting better and better. If you're willing to pay, then I think these are the models that are approaching this um, uh, human-like understanding of language. But as I said, they are not going to create context out of thin air. If you do not give them the right context, then they are not going to create something out of nothing. But if the context is there, even if there are nuances, eventually the models are going to get there.
For sure. And I think so like one of the big challenges we talked about is keeping your data and your process in good order. But I think the other half of this is even with the best data, the agent still has to actually reach the data it needs in the first place. And I know for me, it's sometimes easy to get into the bad habit of just setting things up with one-time exports of, say, a spreadsheet or PDF dumps, because sometimes it can be quick and easy. But that will obviously go stale very quickly when there's no syncing with the latest data. So I thought maybe, Raja, you could walk us through maybe like a little hypothetical example of setting up and connecting to different things with Ejento. Maybe just because it provides a more visual-based example for us to all look at here of what this could look like and how this kind of works.
Yeah,
Setting up
I'm happy to.
different connectors.
I'm actually happy to. Let me. But before I go there, before I show things here, one thing that I would like to talk about is uh, when you are using agents or AI in conjunction with your organizational context, have a second look at your processes. Have a second look at your playbooks. Have a second look at your operating model. Have a second look at how things are done. If you find yourself very often that every time some decision comes in and someone comes in and asks, hey, what do we do in this scenario? That means there's no documentation for that. Or every time you have some confusion, right? So in all the things, I mean, so what are our policies to check in this branch versus that branch? The naming convention. I see, Rebecca, you're smiling because I mean we recently went through this in this painful exercise. The naming of branches, we had named them. Even a human could not understand, right? Our staging branch was not staging, and the content branch was actually the staging branch, and so those kind of things. So if a human if a smart, talented human that you hire fresh out of college, if they cannot figure it out, your AI cannot figure it out, period, right? So if they have to go and ask Rebecca, hey, Rebecca, what do I do in this scenario? That means that there is a gap in your process, there's a gap in your context, there's a gap in the way your organization is working. So first of all, I can show in Ejento, but Ejento, Claude, ChatGPT, nothing is a silver bullet, nothing, if you do not have your everything documented. So um, it is fascinating how, if not already, at least this is the case with us internally, uh, use of AI agents, it actually um, it exposes how bad your process is and how bad your documents and how bad your um, playbooks are. So invest time in that. If you want to get ROI from AI, you have to invest in fixing your broken processes, because AI is not going to magically fix things. Okay, so let me, Rebecca, since you asked, so let me show it to you. This is our own internal data science dojo deployment of Ejento. I'm going to go and bring this
Okay,
up.
share your screen. So, yep.
Can you see it now?
I think it's just loading. Yep, we're all good.
So let me show you this this thing recently that we released in on the data science dojo side. We released this bootcamp tutor. And the way this tutor actually works is I am going to, maybe I will just go to an existing query and maybe I will just fire off a few more queries. So I went ahead and asked this a question. I asked it, how do I evaluate a machine learning model? And now, so this is an agent that is more Socratic. Instead of the agent giving me direct answer, it is supposed to actually coach the students. And this is embedded there. I mean, we have some, I can very quickly go, I can take this embed widget. This is all I need. I will go and take that embed widget and then just take it, embed it wherever you like. So now, so right now I'm showing you in this interface. So it actually starts with me. What do you already know about or think about model evaluation? I'm not sure. Please treat me like a beginner on this topic. So it goes on, I have this interaction, I go back and forth, I'm playing dumb, I don't know, just tell me. And then eventually I tell it, well, assess my understanding on this topic. So it goes and assesses my understanding on this topic and gives me a detailed report. Okay. And then I ask it, okay, can you create a mind map of all the topics that we have discussed so I can reference it later? It gives me a mind map. Beautiful, right? How is it doing this? How does it know all of this? So the magic is in these knowledge bases, the corpora that as we call them internally. So I have given it all the topics for our bootcamp, the data science bootcamp. So we have this linear models for regression, unsupervised learning with k-means clustering, etc. And then right now, some other data sources, you can see they are not active. What kind of things do we have? Well, I can go and upload anything, really. I can go to linear models of regression. I can add a document. I can add a Zoom transcript. I can add a web link. I can add my slides, really anything. I can connect it to my SharePoint, really, whatever there is. So I go and do it. In addition to this, I also want it to have the web search context. I want it to be able to pull data in real time from other sources. It has many other things. I have disabled Outlook because this one does not need to see my inbox. I have disabled Azure SQL or HubSpot. It doesn't need to see my CRM and so on. So these are all sources of context. And if I extend it, perhaps we'll have a separate session on discussion about skills. Right now, I have the context. The context is data science bootcamp, but I also have these skills, which is also in turn context, that when you're operating, you should act like a Socratic tutor, or you should also have the skill of assessment, and also some visualization and mind maps and all of those things. So these are the only skills it has, and it will work within the boundary and the realm of some of these skills. I can also use the most optimal model and use it, right? So there are these settings, and these settings actually confine it to certain behavior. I can also add more context. We'll likely will have a separate session on guardrails. What I can actually do is I can perhaps, for instance, right, so if this is going to be deployed in public, and we suspect that there's a concern that someone may upload something that has some personally identifiable information. So if I just flip the switch, this agent is going to stop sharing any context related to anything that is personally identifiable. Okay, so if I now go to the same interaction that I was having, I will go all the way down. It says ready to keep going. Yes, I am ready. And then when I do it, it will actually pick up from where I left. And also, speaking of context, this interaction that I have had so far, that is also context, because it will start picking up from right there, right? So, and then in the middle somewhere, it was talking about spam. And it is, you can see that it is talking about, now it is picking up from where I left off, right? And now it is, so I'm building my competence. Now, can this Socratic assistant be used in a different context? Absolutely, it can be used, right? So I will have to do is take the same assistant and use different data sources. Suddenly, it will start wearing the hat of, well, sociology or an economics course. And we actually have a major customer globally that is actually using it for for their economics courses, a big name globally. And we have deployed Ejento as a Socratic tutor for their economics courses. Okay. Yeah, Rebecca, over to you. Anything else? I'm happy to show, but you tell me.
Yeah, sure. I also think it's just maybe important to mention that, as you're connecting to so many different sources of data and these tools, it's all kind of run inside your own cloud environment. So the credentials are in the customer's control, maybe in their own secrets manager. It's never seen by Ejento, right?
No, not at all, right? So, that's the whole point. So it is governance first. How many of you are, I don't know how I can get a show of hands, but maybe you can indicate or talk about in Zoom or whichever social media you are on. There was this breach in Hugging Face, right? So these governance issues, AI governance and data governance issues, they are going to be more and more issues as adoption happens. So in the previous wave of machine learning and data science and analytics boom, we saw Cambridge Analytica, and that was not a breach technically, but we saw Equifax breach, and I think Target had this kind of data breach. But we are going to actually see these issues start to happen. But keep in mind, if this can happen to Hugging Face, it can happen to any company. Companies take it very lightly. Companies go to SaaS, and Ejento, we do have a SaaS version, but fundamentally, Ejento is not a SaaS product. Ejento comes and deploys within the customer's Azure tenant, and customers' IT controls everything. If they have, two-factor, then we have two-factor. If they want to kick us out, the Ejento team, we have no access to their data. We just give them the control plane for all the agents. We put it behind their own, all the firewalls, all the VPNs or other VPCs, their own private networking, no access to internet or no not being accessible from internet. So we have those controls that the industry is not appreciating at this point. And in many ways, we are a bit ahead of time. But, hey, what's the big deal? It's a SaaS company, and they promise that there's not going to be any breach. But do you realize that your data's control, your data is not in your control anymore? It is some other company that is controlling access to your data. That's big. And of course, many companies, they trust us on this. Or maybe I should say they trust no one. And then they get Ejento and put it within their own cloud, and they control who can or cannot access. And this is why we have very rigorous compliance and red teaming and all of those things that we do before we actually deploy it for our customers. See, is there more questions? Okay. Maybe for another session.
For sure. I just want to give the opportunity for some to get there.
Can you hear me, Rebecca?
I can hear you.
Okay. So the question is, what about the future of data as a sovereign asset?
Yeah.
And the direction countries are taken to limit and control the inputs and outputs. And this is a great question, right? So maybe I can address it. When you say, what about, I don't know what your intent is here, but this is pretty much what, I should not say all countries, but many countries, they're building these sovereign clouds and sovereign AI. And this notion of sovereignty, that is actually widespread. Everyone is talking about it. Many companies, or many countries, they have started building their cloud platforms that to ensure that the data never leaves their own geography. So yes, that is going to be more and more prevalent. In multi-agent systems, this is Chandan on LinkedIn. In multi-agent systems, how to handle if some agents generating redundant response. There's so many things that could be wrong. Chandan, I don't know how to answer this question. If you have multiple agents, one of them is if some agents are generating redundant response. Is redundant mean like it is too verbose but still not wrong? Is it redundant incorrect? Or if one of the agents is doing it, I can tell you what could be the reasons. It could be the model that you're using. Maybe the task is complex enough and the model is not good enough for that complex task. It could be that the model is not, or the context retriever is not fetching the correct context. Maybe your prompts are not correct. So I'm not sure how to answer this, but there can be many answers to your question.
Scarce information as well. So I've seen some examples out there where the information was so scarce that it kind of had to, it was just using like, filler language a lot to have this, but I just didn't have a lot to draw from.
It could be, it could be, Rebecca, you're right? So maybe the context is simply not there.
And it's just one example of many possibilities.
Yes. So there can be so many things. Context is wrong. Context is simply not there. Maybe even if you searched It is not there. You simply don't have information, and the LLM decided to make it up. So there's so many things that could be that could happen. Then now, Sanjeev, your question is, for long-running AI engines, is it okay to let end users know the model history? Better approach is model release, timestamp the response or decision, or response differs with models for a when you say model history, I'm assuming you're referring to the um, agent interaction history, because models are models, right? So the model history, I don't have access to it. And none of us, or most of us, don't have even built a model. We just use one of the open source LLMs, or we use one of the closed source LLMs from Claude, Google, OpenAI, Meta, now one of the Kimi series models. So we use one of those models, but when you're talking about timestamps and response or decision and how the model worked, yes, you're referring to observability. And yes, it turns out that Ejento also has this very detailed observability. So when I asked a question, how do I evaluate a large language model, just like when I was demoing? So I know I can go back and look at the traces of what search was performed, whether a vector database was hit or not, which data source was referred to, and what information was fetched, and how it was processed, what was the model call, how many tokens were consumed. So yes, I mean, you have observability tools that allow you to go to that level of granularity. Okay, and so the question that came in is, deployments change the LLM from time to time. So won't the response change from older version to newer ones? Sanjeev, yes and no. Um, so generally, I'm assuming, let me caveat this with the way I understood the question. So you're saying if I go from 4.6, say Sonnet 4.6 to Sonnet 4.7, shouldn't my response change? Yeah, my response is going to change. And usually my response is going to change for better. That's a general understanding. I've seen worse, by the way. I've seen some of the newer cloud models. I've seen with some of the newer meta models. Um, Sometimes for some queries, they may degrade. But generally speaking, the gist of the answer, or it could be a little more verbose, it could be a bit terse, but the gist of the answer should not change. Factually, the answer should not be it should not be fundamentally different.
I think that might have been all our questions today. So, it's been a really useful discussion. We've addressed some really key problems with organizational knowledge and, um, you know, just getting to the right data and making sure you watch where your credentials actually live when you're connecting to all these data sources. But none of it matters without the human, taking responsibility for maintaining accurate underlying content and getting your process right. I think that was probably a key takeaway for me personally. I wanted to thank Raja as well for walking us through it today. And it wraps up our deep dive session. I want to also give Raja any opportunity if you want to make any last comments as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for the opportunity. I think generally speaking, I mean, so not as an engineer, but more as a manager, as someone who's overseeing, processes or managing a few people. If you want to bring in an AI tool from outside, even if you set aside the sovereignty and governance and all of those issues aside for just a moment, you still have to rethink your organizational processes. You have to reimagine how you work. So think about this, that if you can document every single thing, every single thing, of course, the way it is done, it is known. Things that are done repeatedly, of course, they absolutely have to be documented, because your ROI from AI is going to depend on how do you contextualize the most common tasks. If something happens again and again, if you don't have documented, if you every time have to just prompt your agent, hey, how do I do this? This is how you do it. Next time, next day, how do I do this? This is how you do it, right? Instead, document it somewhere in a OneNote or a Notion notebook or a notepad, just anywhere in a shared place. Write down a page or 2 page or 10 pages of how things are done and make them part of that agent's context permanently. Just this recommendation is going to be instrumental in your success in deployment. And it may look like I'm oversimplifying it, but you have someone who understands to some extent the theory side of it. And as I speak to you, just this week, I have invested time in fixing these problems within my own company. And I'm prioritizing it because without it, you cannot adopt AI or get ROI. Adoption, no big deal. Anyone can just go and sign up, right? But you cannot get adoption or ROI out of it. And keep in mind, you have to have some sort of governance structure on top of it. Because if it is connected if a source of data is connected to an agent, no matter how big, how huge, how complex it is going to be exposed. It is going to be breached eventually because some query, some prompt, some question is going to hit that confidential data source. So I think these will be my closing thoughts. Fix your operating model. Your context should reflect your reimagined processes, better processes. Reflect on your processes, identify gaps. Use AI for identify gaps, by the way. But anytime you see some gaps, go back and fill those gaps. Like it always has been true for BI, for machine learning, for data science, for analytics, and it is true for AI. Your data foundations, your context foundations are important. So I think
I
that
think that's
would
a very
be
important point. Yeah, very important point. And yeah, like I said, that wraps up today. And we discussed a lot of important points, but we have lots more to come. So you will see us on LinkedIn, follow our LinkedIn, our social media, and you'll see these announcements come out. Keep an eye out. We look forward to the next one, engaging and learning further.
okay. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thanks
Thank you,
everybody
everyone.
for today.